Hello and welcome to this general election debate for candidates for Congressional District 5, representing much of the East Valley, including Apache Junction, Gilbert, Santan Valley, and parts of Chandler, Mesa, and Queen Creek. This debate is brought to you by Clean Elections, the state's nonpartisan voter education agency. My name is Kathleen Bate, and I will be moderating tonight's conversation. Our format will be a little different tonight. We are hosting a 30-minute one-on-one discussion since only one eligible candidate, Democrat Elizabeth Lee, has agreed to participate. Her opponent, Republican Mark Lamb, has declined our invitation to debate. We're sharing this conversation as part of an effort to support democracy in Arizona through a partnership with the Citizens Clean Elections Commission, the Arizona Media Association, and Reister. It's a partnership designed to make candidate debates accessible to everyone in Arizona. That means this conversation will air on a long list of local TV stations, radio stations, and digital platforms, including support from local newspapers. It's a shared effort between hundreds of local media brands across Arizona. And we thank you, all the voters across Arizona who have submitted questions for this debate. We've reviewed all of them to make sure every voice is heard. However, the candidate has not been given advanced access to any of those questions. Additionally, the candidate will participate in a speed round at the end of tonight's conversation. These questions have been given to the candidate ahead of time, and she has 15 seconds to answer each one. With that, let's hear from our candidate, Elizabeth Lee. Welcome, and thank you for being here. To start, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Kathleen, thank you so much for having me. As you pointed out, I am indeed the only one standing on this stage tonight. And in the infamous words of my opponent from this very stage, if those other folks aren't here tonight, you can't expect them to show up for you in D.C. I am Elizabeth Lee. I am a nurse and a mom. I'm an Arizonan by choice. Arizona offered my husband and I of almost 16 years our American dream here, with a booming economy and a community that offered the state the safety and the stability that we were looking for. And I am showing up and standing up for the people of Arizona's 5th District because we all are tired of skyrocketing prices that are being used to trample our constitutional rights, to fund wars we have no way out of, and to line the pocket of billionaires who care far more about surveillance and data centers than they do the American worker.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you. Let's go ahead and dive right in then. Since you mentioned that your opponent declined our invitation tonight, this is your opportunity to put his platform under the microscope. As you know, Mark Lamb is not a career politician. He is a former county sheriff. So when you look at his background in law enforcement and also at his approach to governance, what are your sharpest differences and sharpest disagreements?
You know, the sharpest difference between my opponent and I is that as a nurse, I'm bound to certain code of ethics to my patients to do no harm to them. And unfortunately, my opponent has had quite a slurry of allegations against him, including misappropriating commissary funds from families inside the jail and using that money for weapons instead of improperly filing his financials for a nonprofit that he had. And again, not showing up tonight says a lot for what you'll get out of Mark Lamb. And I think there are very legitimate concerns that people have and that people should have the ability to have answered. And that's why I'm very disappointed that he did not come tonight, because the people do deserve to hear answers for his record and the recent allegations that have come out against him.
Well, let's talk a little bit about his campaign that he branded around traditional family values. And you've alluded to that media investigation that raised concerns about his conduct. Both his campaign and he himself have denied those claims. So as you're speaking to voters who may be wondering if their core values would be represented, what is your pitch then to the faith or family-focused voter out there who might be considering voting for you or Lamb?
Yeah, I mean, what I say to them is that I am one of you. I was once one of you. I'm a former registered Republican. That was primarily because the faith group that I was a part of said that that's how it had to be. But I believe that there are many people in our district who are of a similar stance, and they want the opportunity to vote for somebody who's going to fight for their values. You don't have to agree with me on everything to expect me to show up and to tell the truth. And I'm not asking people to change parties or to agree with 100% of my platform. I'm asking people to expect more from their elected representatives.
So then you shifted, as you mentioned, public records show, from Republican to Democrat in 2018. Explain in more detail that shift. Was there a one value, or was there one issue that made you switch parties?
You know, I think Donald Trump coming on the scene and being embraced by the Republican Party, that was the beginning of it. But also, as I grew in my role as a nurse, I started to see that it felt like Democratic values of taking care of folks just really was not being reflected in my party. And so in 2016, I voted for Hillary Clinton. I said, I can't possibly align myself with the values of somebody, accused even of some of the things that the president was accused of. And so for me, it was a values-based thing that as I started to get older and, understand more about the way politics goes, it identified with my values better.
So you mentioned you're not asking voters, which is in a traditionally red district here in District 5. I mean, it is an uphill battle to some degree. They haven't elected a Democrat in 15 years. The last incumbent Republican won by more than 20 points. You say you're not asking them to switch parties, but then why should a conservative or independent voter in District 5 believe that their family will be better off under your more progressive platform?
Well, I would first draw attention to the fact that compared to what? I haven't seen my opponent's platform. I haven't seen any policy positions. I haven't seen any concrete plans to solve the things that matter most in our district. Every day that I talk to people in our district, they are more and more every day getting underwater on the affordability crisis that's hitting them from every single angle. And so I'm asking people to say, you know what, this is a moment in time where we can put our party aside and agree, A, that we mostly have similar values that underlie what we fight for and what we consider our own American dream. And then, helping people to understand I'm pro-family. That means whatever family is to you. It is our job as elected officials not to interfere in your business, but to protect your right to have the family or not that you want. I'm pro-liberty. I believe that folks should have autonomy over their own choices and if, when, and how to have a kid. So I'm asking people to, again, expect more of their representatives and know that you can look at both candidates. Unfortunately, you can't compare us on this stage tonight because I'm the only one who showed up. But I'm also the only one in this race with a proven track record all across Congressional District 5 in growing and serving vulnerable populations across this great district. And I still live in this district. I spend money in this district. My children go to public schools in this district, and I am uniquely in touch with what this district needs. Unfortunately, my opponent is 1,500 miles away, building his version of the American dream. But there again, I think he wants you to believe that the American dream is a $3 million ranch 1,500 miles from here, but that's really not what our district is telling me.
Well, since he's not here, let me ask you real quickly, what is the question you would like him to answer for voters in District 5?
I would like you to come forward and explain why we shouldn't be concerned that your behavior or your alleged behavior looks a whole lot like the corrupt, questionable behavior of so many other people in elected office. And so I want to know, why are you different? Why do you not need to show up here and answer for your record? And so I want to know why you wouldn't get out in front of it. Your own party, Andy Biggs has said, David Schweikert has said, multiple members of your own party have said that this is disqualifying if you don't get out here and talk about it, and you're nowhere to be found.
Well, you touched on the cost of living. So economic relief is a priority for candidates across the board this election cycle, but your strategies on how to achieve it are very different. Housing affordability, top of that list. We know that East Valley residents are being priced out as we speak. So what is your take on the primary driver of those higher prices? And what is the single most effective action you believe that Congress could take now that would lead to, in the next 2 years of your term, more affordable, not just buying a home, but also renting?
No, absolutely. Right now, over half of renters in CD5 are paying more than 30% a month on their housing bill. Economists say that we should not be spending more than 30% of our dollars there. But we also have to take back the widespread corporate ownership of single-family homes, because right now the corporate manipulation of these single-family homes, where they buy them up, they flip them, jack the price up, and then, you know, families have less opportunities for housing to choose from. And then finally, I would say that we have to get real about, like I mentioned, that 30% number. We have to get real about what people can actually afford. Across my district in CD5, we have a lot of apartment buildings popping up. And I'm excited for that in many ways because of the type of population that we have in our district. But it also worries me that on a normal wage, most people can't afford the monthly rent at these places, and it's only going up.
So what federal mechanisms would you use to try and control all that?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think we need a buyback program to incentivize corporations to sell the single-family home stock that they have back into the market, and get some sort of tax break for doing so. But it would allow us to recapture a lot of the market. And then, like I said, we have to have plans to build housing that people can afford, and that means smaller footprints. That means less luxury. That means more everyday houses that folks can afford.
And Elizabeth, one of the other financial strains on families is certainly the utility bills. The summers are getting longer. There's been record heat. Both APS and SRP have been raising rates. And of course, the proliferation of data centers that really have made, good or bad, a tech hub out of the Southeast Valley. So everyone agrees that there is going to need, CD5 is going to need more power. Mm-hmm. Who's going to pay that bill is what is up for debate, and it could be a multi-billion-dollar bill to upgrade the grid. So what is your plan, if elected, how you would meet those power needs but not stick CD5 residents with the bill when they already are being squeezed on those utility bills as is?
No, absolutely. I mean, we are, like I said, we are at a collision of multiple different affordability crises. And so we don't have money to blow on resources that we don't have. I think that the data center problem really underlies something that we've been seeing across the district. We saw it in Chandler in the fall when developers came in from New York City with great grand plans of exactly how this was going to be the best thing for Chandler and have basically no environmental impact until you unravel it all, and you realize that that's just simply not true. I sat through a hearing today, a Board of Supervisors meeting over the same topic out in Pinal County. And when we have these affordability crises, we have a documented drought. Why on earth would we give our most precious resource, our water, away to corporations? Corporations are using publicly sourced information from all of humanity to develop their AI models and then cut jobs. So in my view, why on earth we are willing to give our water and and not charge these corporations at a higher utility rate for the overall draw that they take on the system, I think that those are just two failures that we got to catch up with.
Well, let's stick with data centers since you brought it up. I know that you organized a neighborhood action to block a data center going into Chandler because you were concerned about the resource of water. So let's start with the new federal plan that was just announced. Arizona taking a big hit, the largest one in the country, being asked to cut back its allocation from the Colorado River some 31%. First of all, your reaction to that framework, is it fair to Arizona?
You know, I think that the overall final number was better than it could have been. And I think that there is no more kicking this can down the field, Kathleen. There's just not. So we haven't been responsible stewards entirely of our water supply, over the past couple of decades. And that means that people are going to have to be uncomfortable. And so, I agreed with the governor that, that the cuts that they were at one time proposing were higher than what we ultimately ended up with. And I believe, as junior negotiators at the table, I think we need to bring some conservation mindedness and some additional technology to the table to have a solution that brings us long-term water security and not just sort of small fixes for now. Like people say desalination plants are part of that technology, but what we're not talking about is what are we doing with all the waste byproducts of desalination. So I think it's a very complicated equation, but ultimately I think we have to claim the water that we need to secure our and our children and our grandchildren's futures before we give those resources away to data centers.
So if you were representing this district in Congress, what are the immediate next steps that you would propose?
I think we need more moratoriums on data centers. I think we need to put a stop to all of the incoming. I mean, I am not anti-AI, but I look at the speed with which all of these data centers were popped up and some of the downstream effects that we're now seeing environmentally, environmental side effects of these data centers, effects on like local plumbing and local well usage. And there's just a lot of tertiary symptoms that are sort of bubbling up as a result of this widespread, unchecked building of data centers when you mentioned the Chandler data center, and there we heard something similar as what I heard today, and that is that developers are pitching this very great sounding pitch to make it seem like this great economic development. But what they don't talk about is that families are then subsidizing the profits of these data centers.
How so?
Off of their utility costs primarily. I mean, we know that these data centers are driving up the cost of water and electricity. And again, when we are being crippled right now by an affordability crisis, the last thing we should be doing is giving our resources away to billionaires.
All right, you mentioned the economics of it. The flip side of that is that District 5 has also benefited from some of these tech giants moving in, Meta and Google. So how do you strike a balance that protects the water supply, but also protects the tech jobs that are relatively high paying for residents?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth noting that data centers bring very few actual jobs. They bring, I want to say less than 100. It could even be less than that in terms of actual jobs. But I can certainly recognize that there has been benefit brought to us. And I don't by any means say that, that they shouldn't exist or we should shut them all down. But I think that we have to have some guardrails on this project, because as we've seen, they're able to pop them up really, really, really quickly. And some of the really terrible negative side effects are just now becoming more known. If we keep building them, we're going to have even more crises to solve rather than pausing and really coming to understanding with engineers, with geologists, with, hydrogeologists, what is the right, recipe for the number of data centers that we think that this area can handle based on population, based on water reserves, based on all of those things. What can the community weather, and how do we make sure that the community isn't asked to subsidize it?
Well, and big tech, of course, isn't the only major water consumer. Home building consumes a lot of water, as well as agriculture. And you've stated out on the stump that you believe that one of the ways of bringing down the pricing of housing is to increase the housing supply. How do you reconcile the two positions that you want stricter water limits on groundwater that I've heard you say, and also you have the goal of increasing the housing supply to bring costs down?
Yeah. And I appreciate that you bring us there, because it is, because we have so many sort of crises unfolding, we have to somehow balance those two out, because people do need a place to live, but we need to have a long-term growth plan. And I think that we can do both. I think that we can into place to conserve, make moves to conserve water and still build homes with slightly smaller footprints and lower overall costs. I think those two things can happen together. Yes, home building certainly does use a lot of water, but it also, housing people brings a whole host of other benefits into our district as well. So I think both are possible.
All right, as a nurse, we want to move into health care. Your single-payer Medicare for all is a central pillar of your campaign. You talk about cost of living and health bills. Medical bills is one of the things that is also challenging for residents. So walk us through what that transition would look like, moving residents of CD5 from private insurance companies to government insurance.
Yeah, so much like that transition takes place for folks who move off of their employer-based commercial insurance and onto Medicare, it would be a similar process that we would begin by lowering the age. And again, I always reference the National Nurses Union plan because it is spectacularly well planned and shows exactly how and over what period of time we will be able to move the bulk of people onto the plan. But you start with lowering the age. You start with expanding people's ability to get on if they meet certain income requirements. And then you begin, transitioning folks over from there. I think that it's unfortunate, but the corporate influence on medicine is gotten out of hand, and people cannot continue the way we've been going. I don't believe that Medicare for All is a perfect program for us. I don't by any means think it's the final stop on the tour. But I think that we've got to get past our fears that are mostly stoked from, talking points, and look at the fact that we spend 18% of our GDP on healthcare, and we are the sickest nation around the world. Why are we okay with that when there is an option that is less expensive, that has been shown by Yale and other studies that would lower costs and save lives?
Well, I want to get to, we're running out of time. Reproductive rights is a passion of yours as an IVF nurse. You know that abortion protections are in the Constitution, of the state constitution, thanks to Prop 139, but a federal ban and funding cuts in Washington can change all that. So tell us what your plan is for Arizonans who want and voted for those protections.
Yeah, I appreciate that you ended by highlighting the people who asked for that, because people overwhelmingly in this state in 2024 elected for a constitutional right to abortion in our state constitution. And being a pro-liberty candidate means that protecting the constitutional rights of all the folks in our district includes not having the government meddle in your health care. It means not having the government tell you how to have a child, when to have a child. These are things that define us as a free country, as having that liberty over our life's choices. And so I really want to stress to people that I think that there is a lot of inflammatory feelings when you talk about abortion as a topic. And I don't look at it as a topic. I look at it as real lives. And I'm reminded of a life that was almost lost to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. The patient had an ectopic pregnancy. We knew that. She was in the state of Texas. We advised her to seek ER treatment. And she did seek ER treatment, but was turned away 4 times. On the 5th trip there, the patient nearly died because they couldn't give her the care she needed. We cannot legislate medicine like that.
Well, I have about 1 minute, and I want to get your take on what's happening at the border. And you have a very different stance from your opponent about border enforcement. What do you mean, and what does it look like when you're calling for humane immigration reform?
It means not setting both our Border Patrol agents and our other immigration officials and the immigrants that are coming into this country, not setting them up for failure. And currently, right now, ICE as an agency, as it stands, is setting everybody up for failure. We are spending an exorbitant amount of money to massively detain people. That's not the promise that was made. I deeply believe that a strong nation requires strong borders. I also think that we are a humane nation, and no matter how the immigrants who got here, they are people, they are on our soil, and our Constitution gives them a protection to due process. So again, in no means am I a fan of open borders, and I recognize that we do protect our country and save lives by making sure criminals and drug addicts are not flooding the border, but that's not the reality. The reality is right now, 70% of the people in ICE detention have had no criminal record whatsoever. And so, I see mine as that is the humane part, is if there is a system that people can move through with dignity, allow them to do that, but don't snatch them off the streets when they're moving through that process you gave them.
Well, thank you for that. We are now going to shift into the speed round of the questions. This is when you have 15 seconds to respond, and we're going to start with the first one. What is the first word you want voters to associate with your leadership?
Effectiveness, effectiveness, effectiveness. I've spent my entire career fixing systems that have people trapped inside them, and I am not running for Congress to perform. I am running to actually solve problems for the people of this district.
Speaking of the district, what is one thing you wish Washington better understood about District 5?
Yeah, growth has a cost. So the East Valley is booming, but East Valley families shouldn't be subsidizing that growth through higher housing and higher utility bills and strained infrastructure and disappearing water.
What is one way your ideology differs from the mainstream of your party?
When I think about ideology, I think about wanting to chart a new path forward for Democrats, a path forward that leans into our values as our driving force, and one that has a willingness to truly come to the table, willing to listen to the other side.
And speaking of that, what is the one issue you are prepared to work across the aisle to address?
Hands down, healthcare affordability. When you get a medical bill, they don't decide if you're a Republican or a Democrat what type of bill you're going to get. And I am willing to work with anyone and everyone who is committed to lowering drug prices and expanding access and making sure that our insurance companies aren't the ones practicing medicine.
All right, and real quickly, your closing statement. We're just about 1 minute out.
Okay, yeah, no, to close, I want to just say that no matter what side of the aisle that you are on, I am committed to fighting for our shared values. Our American dream is at stake. And so I hear you and I see you when you tell me across this district that you're suffering and you're having a hard time affording your life. If you don't like the direction that this country is going, vote for change, vote for me. If you don't like the job that I do for you, you can fire me in 2 years. And if you have major reservations about voting for a Democrat, that's okay. Reach out to us. Let's talk. I guarantee we have more in common than you think.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time. And that is all our time with this one-on-one conversation with Elizabeth Lee. On behalf of our partners at Clean Elections, the Arizona Media Association, and Reister and Sneaky Peek Studios, good night. Thank you. We get out in time?